Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Teen Meets. I'm Katin Ong, and today I'm very privileged here to be joined by Michael. And Michael is the founder and co-CEO of the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation, and he works with children from poverty, human trafficking, homelessness, etc., and helps them out of their current situation to lead better lives. So, Michael, I will hand over the rest of your introduction to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm in Vietnam, so I'm speaking from Hanoi, where we're currently having a massive typhoon, which we weren't expecting 20 minutes ago.
Oh,
But I've
seriously? Wow.
yeah, it's quite sudden. I've lived here in Vietnam since 2002. I used to be a school teacher in Fairfield in Sydney, but I moved here looking for something new, a change of pace, and I was teaching English here at a university when I started to meet street children in Hanoi, uh, and I wanted to get involved. I wanted to see what I could do to help, and that simple voluntary activity turned into what is now Blue Dragon Children's Foundation, where we work around the country with young people who are homeless or have been trafficked. And trafficking here is mostly of Vietnamese people to China. So our work is a bit complex and deals with a lot of traumatic issues like surviving neglect and slavery. So certainly interesting and often very complex work.
Wow, it's amazing that you were able to do that and set out this wonderful organization that you've made today. So, can I ask, firstly, I've had some questions from a couple of people, which I thought I would be able to ask some of them for you. So, one asked, how do you get these kids to education and shelter and, like bring them to safety from these things?
Yeah, if you're looking at it from outside and even thinking maybe that you would like to start up a similar project, you would be wondering, how do I do it? What's the thing that I have to do? And it's actually very human, not simple, but human. It's about building relationships with young people, building trust over time, finding out what people really want and what they need, and then offering them that they need and want. When we first meet young people, and whether they're homeless or in situations of trafficking, they will tell us certain things. They'll say, especially if they're homeless, there's a very common story that we hear. They'll say, "Well, I'm here on the street because my parents passed away when I was young, and I've grown up in an orphanage, and they beat me, and I had to run away." We hear that nearly every time we meet a new young person, and that's because they're afraid to tell us the truth. They don't know what we'll do, um, if we'll be like an authority figure and make them go home or make them go to school. So first, we accept what they tell us, and we just show them that we can be trusted, that we're here to support them without requiring anything in return, except eventually their trust and their respect. And then what you'll find is that once that there's a relationship there, then everything else becomes quite natural. Some young people want to go to school,
Mm.
but maybe have been out of school for a few years, so they're embarrassed to go back. So we work out what would it take to overcome that shame. Some people want to go into vocational training, or into employment. Some want to go on to university. So if we take away our judgment and realize that everyone's different and has a different idea, different dream for their life, just like you, just like everybody that um, then we can build from there and one by one work out how to help.
Wow, very, very inspirational. I can imagine that it will take a lot of, patience, kindness, and understanding to properly foster these relationships, definitely.
Yeah, and it does take the right people, and it does take time. and it doesn't always work out as we would hope. And sometimes we help young people and then they leave us, and then maybe they come back in the future. We have a boy right at the moment at our centre who our staff have known for 2 years. He's been out on the street for 2 years and he just wasn't ready to come. And now he is. And during those 2 years, my staff would just go and see him sometimes, take him a meal, um, maybe take him clothes or a toothbrush from time to time, and just show him that that we can be trusted, that we're here for him. 2 years of work. Now he's ready for
Mm.
something else.
Wow, it's incredible. And surely a commitment to your very hardworking people who, are looking out for these kids definitely can't be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's important.
Yes, absolutely. So this kind of is a useful segue to this next question, which I had, which was, what do these children need? Like, what do they want also?
Well, it's in some ways it's very basic, and in other ways it's very complex.
Yeah.
They want the same thing that you and I want. They want to belong. They want to be accepted and safe. They want to be cared for. That's the absolute first thing. And everything else follows from that. So the young people who we meet, they might be homeless, which could mean that they've been abused at home or neglected at home. And it doesn't always, by the way. Sometimes they've run away um, on an adventure and things have gotten out of control, and then they just need that help to safely get home to mum and dad, and then everything's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it is more complex, where there's a history of abuse, or uh, things have just gone wrong year after year in their life, or they might be in slavery. And that very often means that someone has tricked them, manipulated them, and offered them, a job, or invited them for a trip somewhere,
Mhm.
but has then enslaved them. And so in those situations, people don't trust anyone. Even Blue Dragon comes along and says, "We're going to help you. We're here to get you to safety." But the young person may be thinking, "Well, how do I know that?" Because the last person I met also said that they were going to help me, and look where I am now.
Understandable,
So,
yeah.
so that number one need is safety and belonging, which are really linked. Normally we have that in our family.
Hmm.
Um, Once you have that, then you start to think, well, what if I'm safe for today? Now I can think about tomorrow. And so that's when they're thinking about education and pathways to employment and to the future. Now, for some kids, it can be very quick to move from that first basic need to the second. We meet some children who we help, and within a week they're back at school and living with their family. And then there's like this boy who we had to meet for 2 years before he actually felt safe enough to say, okay, I want to be somewhere, in a house, and having regular meals and going to school. So that's why I say it's both simple in that their needs are the same as anyone else's, but it's also complex in that maybe a lot of damage has been done to them,
Hmm.
which makes it hard for them to accept what they need.
Yeah. It is a, difficult sort of situation. I guess for every person, of course, it will be different as well. Like there's no hard and fast rule that can be applied to just anything.
And that's a really valuable point. And so then if you see that as your starting point and think, okay, so now how do we help? Then it does have to be different for every person.
Of course.
And so the structure that Blue Dragon has, the way we work, is very, very flexible. For every child, we might be something different. Some want to live in a home, and some want to be free. Some want to go to school, and some just want to go back to work. Some kids don't want to do anything for at least for a few years. And so the way we've developed as an organization is to accommodate that no matter what that young person wants, we should be able to help. And so we have kids right now studying in university. We have some who have gone to study abroad, and we have some who are not even yet ready to go back to school and finish grade 5. It's a really broad mix, and
Mm.
we're deliberately broad so that any young person we meet, we can offer them something.
When you're coming into a place, uh, obviously full of good intentions, like Blue Dragon is, compared to, any sort of past trauma or, troubles that they might have been in.
Yeah, and we can't think of Blue Dragon or any charity as like that fairy tale happy ending. There have been young people who we've met who did well for a while and then ended up in prison or reverted to a drug addiction. And there's also a lot of young people who did that and then came back again. We all want to say, if we just help them for 6 months or 2 years, then we close the book and done. But life isn't like that.
Of course.
And even right now at our centre, there's a young man there who's 24. I first met him when he was 15. At times he's done really well, and he's been to school and vocational training. He's then ended up on drugs again and gone to prison. Now he's back with us, even though he's 24. Obviously, now when he's 24, we help him in a different way to when he was 15. What we offer is very different to someone who's a young adult as opposed to a child.
Yeah.
But we don't want to just say, look, you've had your chance and you failed, so we've got to move on now. We want to keep helping him until he can stand really on his own, and he's got the will inside him.
Yeah.
In fact, he's right now, his dream is to become a social worker, and I think he's got the capacity. Um, all he needs is a bit of help, maybe for another 6 months, maybe for another year, and we might be employing him rather than helping him one day.
That's so good.
I think so.
Definitely. So another question that we have here is around how many children do you work with, or how many people do you work with at your foundation?
Well, around Vietnam, we're helping around 10,000 kids at a time. Now, we're helping them all in very different ways.
Of course.
So here in Hanoi, we have some shelters where young people live. And now that's a very small number. And that's for young people who are in a crisis situation right now and really need a stable home with social workers until they're ready to make some steps into the community or independence. So that's a very small number. Then we have a drop-in centre where we have kids coming and going every day. They might just come for lunch. They might come and hang out all day. They might come for some extra classes or to study some IT. And they might come every day, or they might come once every other week. And then around the country, there are kids who are living with their family who we might go and visit and pay their school fees, rebuild their house if it's falling down. So if you think of it as concentric circles, and there are some who we see every minute of the day, and some who we see monthly. And so that's how we're able to help so many young people. And then, of course, we rescue people from trafficking. They might need help intensively for a few weeks. And then they might say, look, I want to go home. And I don't want any more help after this. I want to go and put it behind me. And then there are some who will want our help and need our help for 10 years. So there's a flow through and also a steady core of young people we're always working with. Again, it's according to need rather than according to our program where we try to make everyone fit in to what we offer.
Sometimes charities like these, organizations like these, they're not looking for just money sometimes, so it's so important to know that it's not a one size fits all for every charity who helps every person, of course. It has such a range, as we've seen. What you've just talked about, every person will be different, and every person has different needs.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. And so for people also who want to support an organization like Blue Dragon, or or just want to somehow be involved, again, you can think of it as those concentric circles. And yes, we need donations. We need donations of any size. We have a program called Dragon Wings, where we invite people to donate monthly, and then we send regular updates about how that pooled money is working together. We get support from schools around the world, in fact, where the kids do a fundraising event, and it might be a massive gala, or it might be selling cookies one day. And then there are people who can't really do that, who just aren't in a position. So they follow our social media and click like on Instagram and read the articles that we share. And for those people, my hope, my ambition is that as they grow up into careers, as they become workers and managers and consultants, that what they have seen from Blue Dragon inspires them to be that next generation that our world needs. Um, there are so many sectors of our world at the moment, so many industries, for example, that really need to be cleaned up. And my generation is not doing a great job of it. We should be doing a lot better. Um, so where is the real hope? Well, it's with your generation.
Mm.
Um, and in a way that's cruel. It's not fair that your generation has that burden. Um, but the reality is that our world has many problems. Slavery and trafficking is one. There are many environmental problems as well.
Yes.
The inequality that we're seeing, and it doesn't matter your age. I think you can be involved, whether it's in that simple way of learning and getting ready for the future, or being more actively involved. But everyone has a part.
What inspires you to keep going, keep doing this job, and keep helping people?
That question of motivation and inspiration is a really good one to look at. Um, and I can share some things about myself, but then it's also worth you and your friends, your peers, um, your cohort of students, then reflecting on themselves. For me, certainly, I've had dark days. I've come very close at times to thinking this is too much. I cannot go on. Um, but what keeps me going is that there is enough success to say it is worthwhile.
Mm.
And that's where you have to set realistic expectations so that you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that we help thousands of kids around the country. But when I go to work each day, I'm not thinking about thousands. I'm thinking about this one girl who today we represented in a court case. I'm thinking about this one boy who has come to our centre for the first time. And when I look at the one child, I can be filled with hope. Even actually when things aren't going so well, I
Mm.
can be looking at one child saying, all right, he or she is in trouble, and this does not look like it's going to end well, but we can turn it around. So where you focus really impacts your motivation. If you want to look at all of the world's problems, you will be overwhelmed. So start with one thing. And I know that for some people, human trafficking and slavery is the thing that they're focused on. But
Mm.
for someone else, it will be environmental,
Yeah.
or it'll be to do with animal welfare. And I would say whatever your passion is, focus on that, narrow it down to where can you have the impact? What can you achieve? I feel really privileged that I have been able to do this. Um, And what I mean by that is I can't imagine doing anything else in my life that would be more meaningful or more worthwhile. And I know a lot of people wish that they could do something more. So I feel lucky that I can do what I'm doing. Um, I also think, I came to Vietnam and Blue Dragon kind of started by chance. I didn't come here to start this. And it occurs to me, well, I actually could have done this anywhere. I could have done this in Australia. Um, we overlook a lot of opportunities that are on our doorstep. We overlook the elderly family next door who would love it if you dropped in with a meal for them once every week, or the disadvantaged school where the teachers would love it if someone came and read to the library class once a week. There are opportunities at our doorstep every day. And sometimes we're looking afar. We're looking at Vietnam or somewhere in deepest Africa, and we're thinking, well, if only I could go there, I could do something good. But start where you are. I started where I was, and it just happened to be in Vietnam. But really, I look back to when I was living in Australia, thinking all the opportunities that I passed over to help to do some good there at home.
A lot of people that I go to school with are, very kind and caring people who have heard of charities, organizations, and foundations such as yours. And it can kind of seem a bit far away considering, you hear the numbers in the thousands and you hear all of these very deep and definitely not simple issues, like you said, human trafficking, poverty, that sort of thing. It can be a bit overwhelming, but uh, we still would like to help. So, how do you recommend young people here, preferably like around high school students in foreign countries, like what is the best way that we can help and that would be useful to people like you?
Yeah. Well, there's there are different ways for me to think about that question. One way, thinking globally, is that education, learning about the issues. I mean, it's never been easier with the internet. All that information is there.
Mm.
And a really good example that is so simple, and especially, I have to say, for your age group, is the fashion labels that you buy. You know, companies these days have pressure on them to monitor their impact on the supply chain. Are they using slave labor somewhere? Are there underage workers in their supply chain? Some companies do that better than others, and all of that information is online. You are very powerful. Companies want you. They desperately want you, especially at your age. They want you to be thinking about their brand and becoming their loyal customer. If you stop buying from them, or if you get on their social media and say, hey, I'm actually not going to be your customer because I can see you're getting a really bad rating. That's what companies are terrified of. They want you getting on your social media saying, I buy this brand because they're really ethical. Now that's a power that you have. So on a global level, think about those ways that you impact the world naturally. You shop, right? You don't have to think, I'm going to go shopping now to make a difference. You already shop. The question is, how do you shop? Who do you buy from? When it comes to maybe connecting with specific causes or charities, I think that getting to know the charity, as you have done, reaching out, send an email, send a message on social media, get to know them, get to see where your values align, and then see how you can interact. And of course, every charity can do more if they have more money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that a charity needs. As you said earlier, be active on their social media, share their message, Ask them questions, give them opportunity to explain themselves. Blue Dragon loves to have relationships with schools where we can come and visit. And we actually have some people in Australia who are able to do that on our behalf, to come and speak to a class. Even if there's not a donation, there are ways that schools and students can interact. We really encourage students to think, what's the one thing that you can do? And very often it might just be social media, getting on social media and sharing posts, or doing research and sharing that with your friends, because you're doing that anyway. You're already on social media, just like you're already shopping.
Of course.
So it's not necessarily about finding totally new things to do, but doing the things you already do in a more conscious way to benefit other people. And that's just a small switch. But then I do encourage volunteering. So finding a local cause. And if you're busy, is there something you can join once a year? There are I know an organization in Melbourne, for example, called the Big Umbrella, where groups go, and they might just do this one time to go and feed homeless young people. There are causes like that. Think what's local for you, and also think what's global, and do a mix of both. Get involved in a charity in Vietnam, and also something right there on your doorstep. So that, you've asked a question there that I think is fundamentally important, and that's why I've given such a long answer, because if you start to get involved now as a student, it will shape your thinking, and it'll shape your future. So do it. Get started and help someone. You can benefit from it as well. There's so, it's not a hypothesis. There's so much study on this, that when you do things for others, and even if it is changing your clothing brand, that gives you more happiness. There's no question about that. It brings benefit to you and to other people. And when you look at it that way, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you change your habits to bring more happiness to everyone, including yourself? And in doing that, you're helping to reduce this problem of slavery. You're helping to reduce environmental catastrophes. So the benefits flow, and you don't always see them straight away. So it is about developing habits, not only one time sharing something on Facebook, but really turning habits that go for the long term.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. Your insight has been beyond valuable.
So good on you. Thank you for this conversation
Well,
today.
thank you for joining me today. And if you want to learn more about Blue Dragon, their website link is actually in our website already, but I will attach it at the bottom of this post here, as well as their respective social media. And yeah, if you have any questions, then let me know and we can sort those out as well. But thank you once again, Michael. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that we can speak again sometime. Maybe I will try and do something with my school or some other peers and rally up some funds or maybe something to help where we can.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Kat, and thank you for the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.